All right, big news for the Seminoles today as a depth chart comes out and officially lists Brock Glenn as an OR. So DJU just ahead of Brock. Brock listed as the OR starter. Mike Norvell asked about this in the press conference. He had a pretty hilarious response, not hilarious in a good way. But we'll talk about that, talk about what I think is happening here, what's going to happen on Saturday. I won't bury the lead. We'll just talk right about this. I was told this morning that DJU, there's a really good chance that he's just kind of done for the year. I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's a mix of things, but it would not surprise me at all if Brock Glenn started this game this weekend against Clemson, and then some combination of Brock, other guys started the rest of the year. I haven't been told anything about other people potentially starting, but it wouldn't shock me if Brock struggles a little bit, if Luke maybe gets some play later in the year. That's purely me speculating. Being listed as an OR starter, I don't really know a reason for that. I couldn't tell you, but for me to have been told this morning, hey, DJU likely done for the year, maybe done for the year. I haven't confirmed that. Florida State's not going to confirm that anytime super soon. But for me to be told that and then Brock be listed as an OR on the depth chart when Mike doesn't really have to list certain things as a depth chart. He could certainly just keep DJU there as the starter and then play Brock. He's done that plenty of times. It does kind of make me think that we probably are seeing a changing of the guard. I don't know how much this matters. I don't really want to make you guys laugh. Like, this isn't really a funny thing, but maybe there's a little bit of gamesmanship involved here, and here I am laughing as I'm saying it. The idea of, well, if you just listed DJU as the starter, they probably only prepare for DJ. If you know that DJ's out, but you completely take him off the depth chart, then Clemson only prepares for Brock. I don't know how much it matters to split Clemson's preparation time for different quarterbacks. Not very much. I don't know how much they really need to prepare for DJ being a banged up, slowest quarterback in the Power Four versus Brock, a guy that I don't necessarily think is very ready either. But if Mike Norvell maybe sees it as a little bit of an advantage to have them prepare for both, then yeah, maybe that is something that can help you in some way. Now, I don't think so. I think Clemson is significantly better than you are. I don't think it's going to matter that they have to prepare for a couple of different guys, but if you can take away a little bit of your opponent's focus, you're trying to grasp at straws at this point and do anything you can to try and not only win a game, but just be competitive, not get blown out in this game. I will say, no ad on this video, like I'm not going to shout anybody out. We did let our Patreon members know this. We let Discord know that this is likely what was going to be happening. In fact, the exact words I used were, I expect to see a change at the top of the depth chart, and that is exactly what happened. So if you're not signed up for that, you can go to patreon.com/DFNS, Patreon, patreon.com/DFNS, and sign up to support. We were the first to put that out, and hopefully the folks that are subscribed and are paying for that did enjoy the little bit of a heads up as to what was coming today. I will say this. I had been told this earlier in the year, and I think it's fairly obvious now. I talked about it with Richie a little bit last night. I do think that DJ's been pretty banged up. He's had a knee injury that he is nursing, not something that's detrimental, but certainly something that has been slowing him down. He's been wearing a brace for much of practice. I know that certain people, you're not allowed to report on, injuries or things that you see at practice, whatever. He's had that for a while. He's not been wearing it during games. Obviously, you saw it this week. I do think that is a big part of his struggles. I think it's a big part of why he's moving so slowly. Now, you can say, well, why was he playing? At the end of the day, that's on Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell probably still thought he gave Florida State a better chance to win games than the other 2 or 3 quarterbacks on the roster. You can disagree with that. I don't agree, that's just what the head coach thought, right? And that's why he continued to play through the injuries, continued to play through what was going on. I think that when you add in the way he's played, the fact that the season is over, right? At this point, you're not making a bowl, right? What's the best case scenario for Florida State? You beat Clemson. I'm sorry. No, you beat Duke, you beat Carolina, you beat Charleston Southern, and you beat Florida, right? Like, that's the absolute best case scenario. If you beat Clemson, Miami, or Notre Dame as 2 touchdown plus dogs, if you win any of those games, people are going to be stunned and shocked. It will be one of the biggest upsets in college football this year if it's to happen. And I don't think any of those do happen. So at this point, you're not even making a bowl. I think with SMU, you kind of thought like, well, if we could win this and win those other ones, you could make a bowl. It's worth it to try and get to that 6th and maybe 7th win in a bowl game. Now that is over. And so the fact that he's banged up on his knee, he's got hand injuries, he's not playing super well, and the season is legitimately over, there is no reason to not play the younger guys at this point. There is no reason to continue to give DJU reps at this point. Now, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I think DJU is actually a really good kid. I think he's grounded in faith. I think he's a good person. He does things the right way. He tries hard. I don't think his effort's been lacking. He's just not been very good, right? So this is not a personal attack on him. I wish him the absolute best. I honestly hope for his sake he could maybe apply for a waiver and get like a medical red shirt. He played 4 games in a partial game. Maybe the NCAA would grant that, and maybe he could transfer down and have one more year of football and maybe be healthy and be against lesser competition, but just get that 1 year to kind of go out before he starts his career in whatever else he goes into. I would want that for him. I certainly don't want to see him back at Florida State next year. I think it's time to close that book, but I think he's a good kid. I think he wanted to be a Seminole. It just didn't work out, right? And I do think his effort and his he's not been good. I know you guys hate him and everything else, but like he's been a good kid that's tried hard and just hasn't worked out. It's not his fault that Mike's continued to start him. It's not his fault that he got hurt. It's not his fault that honestly his blocking and receivers haven't helped him at all. His coach hasn't helped him at all. But I do want good things for him, right? Like I'm not like, oh man, just hope he has a miserable life. Like I'd love if he could apply for a waiver and play one more year elsewhere. I'd love if it could be against one of the teams on our schedule, but certainly not in Garnet and Gold. On Brock, I don't think this is an ideal scenario for him if he has to start against Clemson. I see the tweets. I see the posts. Yeah, the fact that he is starting now an ACC championship and then against Georgia in a game that nobody cared about and then against Clemson as a 2-touchdown dog. Not an ideal scenario, but at the end of the day, we need to see what you're made of, right? And sometimes you have to step up when your number's called, and you got to play games that you weren't necessarily intent on playing. I think, and this is just my opinion, this is not necessarily me having heard this. I think what likely would have happened is that Norvell would have likely started Brock after the Clemson game. I think he would have given DJ the Clemson game for a couple of reasons. One, former team, let him go out there, see if you can get some magic against a former team and kind of have a miracle story right off into the sunset, get the win. And then, maybe even then, if he'd have won that game, you'd have started him again against Duke, because if he could have beat Clemson, you'd have felt really good about his chances past that. But I think that would have been one reason. Number two, I think that you don't necessarily want to throw your redshirt freshman out there against Clemson and let him take that beating. I don't think you want it for his confidence. I don't think you want it for his body. I don't think you want it for him in general. Let DJ wear that loss and then move on. And then number three, I think you had the bye week, right? You had the ability to go out there and give Brock 2 weeks of first team reps, right? And let him have the bye week and the Duke week to get prepared for that Friday night game. To me, that would have been the timeline that would have made sense. And so I think a change was probably coming anyway. I think you wanted to probably get through this Clemson game before making it, but I don't know that this is the best scenario for Brock Glenn, but at the end of the day, you go out and take some lumps and then see what you can do in the second half of the year. All that said, Brock Glenn not being ready is a clear indictment on Mike Norvell. Now, maybe Brock Glenn is ready, and maybe the fan base has been right, and maybe Brock does make this offense go, and maybe we start to figure things out, and maybe he's a spark that we needed. But if he's not ready, what's that say about Norvell? What's that say about his quarterback development? Because he's not been very good in the portal at quarterback when you look at Mackenzie Milton and you look at now DJ Uiagalelei, and he's not been very good with quarterbacks he's recruited. You think about Chuba transferring, you think about Tate, you think about A.J. Duffy, you think about guys he's missed on in the portal, Altmaier doing well at Illinois, you think about other quarterbacks. Like, where is the development? Where are we with that? Now, I'm not ready to write off Luke just yet. Certainly, I think that there's some time there, and I don't expect a kid that's been part of the team for less than a year to be the savior of Florida State football this season. But if Brock's not ready as his second year in the system, what does that say about the development under Mike Norvell, right? What does that say about where we are in developing quarterbacks? And so if Brock goes in and struggles for a couple of games, could you see Luke at some point? I know people like to say, oh, put in Trevor. I don't know that we're anywhere close to that. I think Luke would kind of be your next up if Brock doesn't work out. But would you potentially, if let's say Brock plays the next couple, doesn't look very good, would you go to Luke? I would at some point. And maybe it would be before that Charleston Southern game, and you let Luke play the last two. Now, we'll see. If Brock doesn't struggle as mightily as we think he might, maybe you just ride Brock out the rest of the year. But I would probably see what Luke's got at some point. And I think you'll probably have that happen. I think that Brock's going to have incredibly tough games against Clemson, probably Miami, probably Notre Dame, and then maybe you just go to Luke for the last couple. Let's see what he's got against some lesser competition in Charleston Southern and Florida as well. Brock will get his chances against some lesser competition. You've got Duke, you've got UNC as well that you can kind of put him out there for, but he's going to have to take some lumps if he plays against Clemson and Miami. Now, Florida State's not confirmed that DJ's out for the year. I'm not telling you that that's an absolute certainty, but it is what I'm hearing. It is what I think is likely. Even if he's not injured, I think you should probably move on anyway, especially if Brock starts this weekend. No matter how it goes, you kind of need to start to play some of your young guys. You kind of need to start to play the guys that are going to be here going forward for you. So whether it's injury related, whether it's just buy-in from boosters, from the team, from the locker room, or it's just getting ready for next year, I think it's time to move on, and I think Mike will, right? Like we talked about this in the video that came out this morning, and we talked about it last night on the show. It's time to make changes immediately for the future, right? Year's over, season's over, people are done. Let's move on to 2025. If Mike doesn't, and Mike sticks with DJ, and DJ starts this weekend, or DJ plays later on in the year, I think we have some pretty serious issues that we need to discuss. Hopefully that's not a thing. Hopefully that's not a thing that we have to bring back up. Let's just go ahead and make the right decision, move on. I think the or is pretty telling. I think I can tell you why that or happened. Again, the gamesmanship side of things. But what'll happen on Saturday, I think Brock Glenn's going to end up starting. I think I've heard it from multiple people that I trust. I think that's the way it's going to go. We'll see. But that's where I think we are right now with Florida State football's quarterback position. Some other changes on the depth chart, nothing real major. Some oars at tight end, some oars at offensive line. Nothing seems too changed up on the defense unless I just looked at it incorrectly. But none of that real major to me. I think we kind of knew that was coming. But we'll see how they play against Clemson. Not super hopeful, but who knows, man? Maybe Brock goes in and you get an all-world performance from the defense, and you can find a way to make it competitive late. Again, not super hopeful, but the fan base has been asking for this, and so asking it shall be given to you. Even if it wasn't the way you thought it would go down, you guys certainly got what you wanted, and now we'll see if maybe Mike was right about this or if you guys were right about it. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Again, we let our Patreon members know, we let our Discord members know about this early this morning. If you'd like to support there, or if you'd like to get some insight on what's coming and what's next, we'll certainly keep this situation updated this week, and then all other things surrounding Florida State football updated as time goes. I've heard some scuttlebutt about coaching changes. We'll certainly include some info there in the Discord. So patreon.com/DFNS. Go check it out. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. Go Noles.